Hello traders, this is Steve Miley, the market chartist, and our regular weekly macro watch update for the week commencing the 23rd of November 2020. Risk on mode reflected by commodity currency resilience. So we're going to kick off in here with the macroeconomic and geopolitical developments we've seen over the past week. Well, first of all, we're going to focus on the announcement from Moderna at the beginning of last Monday, of their COVID-19 vaccine producing extremely positive trial results in here. And remember, that was on the back of the prior week, the prior Monday actually, the similar announcement from Pfizer, their trials results from the prior week in here, very, very positive. And both these companies now moving towards next stages of getting this all approved and then potential implementation as we go into December. On top of this, we also had an announcement from the University of Oxford Astra Zeneca vaccine development. Also, again, a positive statement saying that the trial results from them were particularly healthy and particularly good, particularly in older generations. So all of this good news in here, helping markets stay very much in a risk-on theme. What do we have else going on elsewhere? Well, the absence of any transition of power is really still a bit of a concern. Not particularly worrying markets at the moment, but the Trump administration continues to dispute the election result, and that lack of an absence of transition of power could be an issue as we go forward into the end of the year and into early next year, early January. Elsewhere, we've also had in the US, we've seen the Republican senators in here agree to restart talks on a new pandemic relief package. So that's certainly seen as a positive by markets. And on another slight positive, new European COVID-19 cases are reflecting that lockdown measures are working. We're either seeing those numbers in here plateauing. We're seeing in some instances a sharp fall in the number of new cases. In some instances, we're seeing them plateau. And even where they're still climbing higher, they're climbing higher at a far lesser degree. However, in the US, the number of daily reported cases and deaths is still continuing to surge higher, but lockdown measures are starting to kick in across the United States. On the EU-UK trade talks, we're getting mixed messages from within those talks. However, there's been slightly on the more positive side, and that has helped the pound push higher, which we will look at as we move on through today's video. So let's take a look at those financial market developments for the end of last week, the weekend in the 20th of November. Well, the more of a sideways theme in here. We did pop higher here on the Dow Jones Industrial Average at the very beginning of the week to a new recovery high on that Moderna announcement. And then since then, the market kind of drifted lower, but still holding on to support levels and still maintaining a resilient positive tone from this very aggressive bullish acceleration that we saw in the first half of November. And that's echoed in the European indices in here, with the Euro Stoxx 50 actually holding on to gains, making new highs this week, and then holding on to those gains, a far more resilient bullish tone from the Euro Stoxx 50, the Pan-European Equity Average. And then in the UK, similar in here, a new high, a new recovery high for the FTSE 100, getting close up to that June peak, having wiped out lots of resistance levels from July, August, September in here during this November rally. Another high level consolidation, another new recovery high earlier last week, and looking for further upside potentially going into this week and late November. On this currency side, we're seeing the commodity currencies doing really pretty well in here, Australian and Canadian dollars, but really the standout has been the New Zealand dollar, surging on Friday to yet another new multi-month, multi-year high in here, underlying the risk-on theme that financial markets have, and particularly echoed in here by the risk currencies, particularly say the New Zealand dollar. The dollar index kind of sideways for the week, but a negative sideways, and sitting right down on those lows posted earlier in November and close to this low that we saw in September. So the US dollar stays weak, and the US dollar even re-weakening in here, having had a push higher against the yen on that initial results that we had from Pfizer over a week ago now, but then giving up all of that positivity with a significant sell-off in here for dollar yen as we've gone into this through this week. The pound has stayed strong, pushed back up to peaks we saw previously here in November, getting very close to those peaks at the end of last week, and real upside risk for the pound going into this week, maybe towards 134, on the back of potential positive progress on those EU-UK trade talks, but that could go either way going into this week. Turning our attention to the commodity space now, copper reflecting the global risk-on theme, having posted a solid rebound in here through November and made new recovery highs. A really strong rally to end last week on Friday, surging to the upside. Again, another new multi-month, multi-year high for copper. Gold has sat down near recent lows posted earlier in November and also back in September after that big sell-off we had again about a week or so ago in here on that Pfizer news in here, and the market's sitting down near the recent lows in here, still very negative. Where crude oil has remained positive, we have had a slight dip back lower, but then a rebound and pushing back up towards recent November peaks and potentially going to be challenging up to those August peaks in here, a resilient consolidation tone over the past week. So now let's take a look at the week ahead, the week commencing the 23rd of November 2020. Well, first of all, to say this coming Thursday is Thanksgiving in the United States, with financial markets closed all day Thursday, all financial markets in the US closed, and also a half-day holiday on Friday afternoon. So markets usually very, very quiet during that Thanksgiving period, but we'll have to wait and see if we get any more bigger geopolitical developments which could see volatility return to markets. But for now, we're looking at the Thanksgiving period usually to be quiet, Thursday on closed and Friday a half day. We're going to watch out for any new vaccine announcements, potentially further announcements in here to see how the development is going and whether we're going to get any kind of approvals from within Europe or the US or elsewhere for these various vaccines that have been developed from Pfizer, Moderna, Astra Zeneca, Oxford University. We're also going to be monitoring COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations and deaths, certainly very much in focus, particularly in the US where those numbers are continuing to rise, but also monitoring that European data to see if the lockdown measures continue to work and that we're seeing a roll lower in many of these pieces of data reflecting the COVID-19 cases in Europe, but US particularly in focus at the moment. And we're going to look at monitoring new lockdown announcements, particularly from the US, where really they're behind where we are in Europe, in the UK, where we are seeing lockdown measures been put in place over the past few weeks. The US now starting to put in lockdown measures, so we'll see if that goes more nationwide throughout the United States over the next week. But obviously tricky in here, given we're going into this week of Thanksgiving. We're also going to monitor for any transition of power progress, obviously still until we see the Trump administration concede defeat in the election and actually start to move towards a transition of power. It is potentially a negative on markets, but if we see any kind of positive progress on that, then we'll likely see markets react positively too. And on the central bank side, a very, very, very quiet week. We don't have central bank meeting minutes or any meetings this week, but there are various speakers active throughout the week. So let's take a look at the key macroeconomic events going into this week. It's a fairly quiet week on the scheduled side in here. New Zealand retail sales on Monday, and probably the standout data for the week is going to be the global market flash PMI, Purchasing Managers Index data that we get on Monday. We then get German GDP and the IFO survey from Germany on Tuesday with US consumer confidence. We then get a host of data from the US with their durable goods, PCE and weekly jobless claims data all coming through on Wednesday. And then we had that Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday. Very little data out of Europe, and also a half day for the Thanksgiving holiday on Friday. Again, very little data on Thursday and Friday, and with US markets closed, no data coming through from there. I'm going to wish you all a great trading week. If you're in the US, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Please do stay safe out there, and I'll be back with you for another macro watch with FX Explained very soon. So traders, don't forget to catch us on the next FX Explained macro watch and all the great content on fxexplained.co.uk.